I'm Rachel Heath-Porch, founder of Rebound Athletic, and I'm super excited to bring you today's episode with Jackie Baxter, who you may know as the host of the Long COVID podcast. But what you may not know is that she's also a qualified breath coach and now teaches others alongside her business partner, Vicky Jones, on how to fix dysfunctional breathing and regulate the nervous system to help you heal. This episode is split into two parts. The first part is educational, where Jackie tells us how to identify if you are breathing functionally and explains the benefits of functional breathing on the nervous system. Then she takes us through a beautifully relaxing guided breath session. I honestly felt amazing afterwards. So if you are intrigued to know how to improve your health with breathwork, then this episode is for you. I hope you enjoy it.
Hello, Jackie Baxter. How you doing?
I am doing great this morning, thank you. If you see me bouncing, it's because I am literally sitting on my my bouncy ball, trying to be good to my back. So I'll try not to get too excited as I talk about this subject that really excites me.
Brilliant. Thanks. That was a great intro. So look, this is, I think, the third time we've chatted. You had me on your Long COVID podcast and shared my recovery story about 9 months ago now, I think it was. No, maybe more now. I think at the end of last year. Yeah, time flies. And then you kindly came on my Instagram live to share how breathwork was crucial to your recovery from long COVID. But today we are going to do something a little bit different. We're still going to talk about breath, but you're actually going to take people watching through or listening through a guided breath session at the end. But we're going to start with a bit more of a knowledge or a lesson, shall we say, because knowledge is power. And therefore, before we get into that guided session, it'd be great if you could, I guess, help viewers understand why, the why behind deliberate breath work, right? So they can identify if it's something that they could benefit from. So to kick it off, perhaps you could explain the difference between dysfunctional and functional breathing for us.
Yes, absolutely. This term dysfunctional breathing is one that we hear. You certainly hear it a lot in the kind of chronic illness community. But to be honest, it's something that is kind of like a worldwide every person thing. Everyone can breathe better. So dysfunctional breathing is effectively breathing that isn't functional. It's breathing that is not appropriate for your body in that moment, effectively. So the easier way to answer your question is, what is functional breathing? So functional breathing is breathing that is equal to our metabolic requirements, that is, regulating rather than dysregulating. So the three kind of buzzwords here are nose, and you can check in with yourself as I'm saying this. So are you breathing through your nose? The nose is step one, really. It's the foundation of our breathing. Our mouth is not designed for breathing. It is a very useful backup, and occasionally we do need it, but it is not designed for breathing. So we should be breathing through our nose. And for anybody who's thinking, I can't do that, that's really difficult, this is a process. So we start that process and it becomes easier. But it does take time, or it can take time. So number one, nose. Number two, low. So that is using our diaphragm. So our diaphragm is our most important breathing muscle. I might even argue that it's the most important muscle in our body. It's certainly a very important muscle, and yet we can't feel it. The diaphragm doesn't actually have those nerve endings in it, which means, if I said, clench your arm muscle, you'd go, yeah, I can do that. You can feel that, but you can't do that with your diaphragm. You can't clench your diaphragm. In fact, just try and do it. Just can you feel your diaphragm? No, you can't.
I feel my core trying to do it, but not my diaphragm.
Yeah. So the diaphragm is this, it's kind of sort of rainbow shaped or dinner shaped plate, upside down dinner shape size. In fact, I've even got my prop here. I didn't even realize this wasn't even planned. So this is like our diaphragm in our body. the essential breathwork prop. So
What can you just, sorry, for anyone, especially those just listening, what did you just show on the screen
so
there?
the diaphragm here, as we breathe in, so as we inhale, our diaphragm moves down and expands, opens out, creating that space in our belly and allowing our lungs to open, allowing the air to get to the bottom of our lungs, which is where our best gas exchange happens, as well as slowing down our breath. And then as we exhale, it contracts.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
inhale, exhale.
And that's a collapsible sieve you're using to demonstrate that, is it?
It absolutely is. I could use it to cook my vegetables, or I could use it as a YouTube prop. So the diaphragm is super important. The diaphragm is a muscle, and if we don't use it, we lose it. So if you haven't been diaphragm breathing, you may find that your diaphragm is very weak, may even be stuck, and you could maybe just pop your hand onto your belly and see if you notice any movement. So as we engage our diaphragm, as our diaphragm moves down, our belly will move out to create that space in our lungs, because that's where that's where the main part of our lungs is. It's lower down. So diaphragm moves down, creates that space, so you feel the belly move out. And that's what many people in this space don't do. The diaphragm can get stuck for many, many reasons, one of which is trauma. Right. I don't think I need to say too much more on that subject.
Yeah.
There's lots and lots of other reasons, all of which are, again, very, very common in this space. So getting that diaphragm, firstly, to start moving, and then to gently strengthen it up in a safe way. We can't go straight for the big heavy weights. We have to do it gradually. So it is a process. So that's the diaphragm. And then thirdly, slow. Now, slow can mean different things to different people depending on the situation. You could be functional breathing whilst running, but your breath is going to be a lot faster than functional breathing whilst sitting on your sofa, for example. So it's tailored to the situation, but we want it to be slower. What we find is a lot of people are very stuck in that fight-flight response. When we're in that fight-flight response, we're up here in our upper chest, which isn't comfortable. It's not efficient, and it's playing into that cycle. When we're breathing up here, our body feels like it's in danger. So we're playing into that fight-flight response. So we want to slow down that breath so it can speed up when it needs to, but it's not always going to be at that fast speed. And so nose, low into the diaphragm, and slow is your functional breathing. And why is this important? It's important because we want to be efficient in our bodies. We want to make the most use of what we have, whether you are in recovery and you want to use that energy for healing, not for, breathing in a more difficult way than you need to, but also for an athlete who's running a marathon. You want to make the best use of what you have, because a marathon is a really freaking long way. I've never run one, but from people who have, I've heard that it's a really long way. So we want to be efficient, but also if we think about our nervous system, we breathe something like 25,000 breaths a day. If we are breathing those 25,000 breaths a day in a dysfunctional way, so if we're breathing into our upper chest, if we're breathing through our mouth, if we're breathing fast, with every breath we take, we are ringing those alarm bells in our body. We are triggering our fight-flight response, and we are going into that emergency panic stations, ding, 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 with every single breath. That's quite a lot of overstimulation. Whereas if we are breathing functionally, then we have that level of regulation. Our nervous system becomes more resilient. We're more, resilient to stress when it does happen, because it does. But also, it just, you're on that level. And even if you do get those spikes, because everyone does, say something stressful does happen, your body does get overstimulated. At least it's coming from that level of regulation, from that level of functionality, rather than this level up here where we're already in our chest. We're already closer to that fight flight response, or we're maybe already in there. And then we don't want to drop down into that shutdown because that's horrible and difficult to climb out of. So yeah, breathing's so important. That's before you even talk about some of the down regulating exercises that we can do on top of that. So that functional breathing is so important.
I mean, thank you for that really thorough explanation. And actually, I think you really helped, certainly for me, bring that to light with your, just even by saying there's 25,000 breaths a day.
It's a lot of breath.
And it's a lot of breaths. And if you're doing that in a inefficient way, it does actually make sense now how that would, you know, have an adverse effect to your state of your nervous system. And
totally,
it's like you kind of know that, or you're told to kind of, like, when you're going to do a big presentation, or I'm, you know, as an ex-athlete, you know, when I was playing tennis between points or in like tight situations, you know, people tell you to breathe, take deep breaths, but it's like you don't really think about why. It's just like you just do it because you're told to, or people say you should. So actually having someone like yourself explain the actual physiological changes that can occur through the controlled functional breath, I think is really, really useful. Which leads me on, I'm sure you're going to come on to it a bit more, but that, because you touched upon the nervous system regulation there, but like how, I guess, the correlation between the breath, the mind, and the body when it comes to healing. I wonder if you could kind of explain how those kind of join together a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the breath, there's a quote that I can't lay my hands on, but the gist of it is that the breath is kind of the connection between the mind and the body. You know, it kind of joins the two together. And, you know, we know how connected they are as well. You know, the breath kind of bridges everything. I think, you know, it's such a foundation of life as well, the breath. You know, it's again, there's that wonderful James Nestor quote that says, you know, it's the missing dimension in health. You know, because our breath, you know, has such a huge impact on our nervous system. You know, as I said, with every breath we breathe, depending on where we are in our nervous system, you know, what we're going to do with our breath might be different. So this is, you know, a lot of what I do is teaching people how to understand their own bodies in the context of that breath. So, for example, if you are in that freeze, in that immobilization, that shutdown, you can't lift your head off the pillow and, you know, just you're in low power mode. The body has shut down, the fuse is gone. Trying to do some sort of breath exercise that feels a little stronger is probably going to send you further into that shutdown.
Right.
Because that's what the body does. It will sense that danger and it will go, oh my goodness, shut down more, you know, curl up more into that ball. No, 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 no. Whereas if you are in your fight flight, you know, you've got too much of that activation, that sort of adrenaline, that, you know, you maybe even have that buzzing, the breath is faster, the heart rate is faster, you know, and symptoms and sensations that are more personalized to you. So the exercises or the techniques that you would do in that position, totally different. You know, you need to shift that energy. You need to, you know, calm. Whereas when we're in our rest and digest, you know, that's maybe where you can do some things that are a little more hardcore, possibly, if you're open to that, if you're resilient enough to do it. Or it's maybe more about maintaining that, you know, we're in that happy, great green zone. Yay. You know, this feels wonderful. How can we stay here? So it's really understanding the breath and the nervous system and the connection. So the breath and the nervous system, obviously, absolutely huge. That connection is massive. But what's so wonderful about the breath is it actually has other dimensions to it. So, you know, we have three kind of pillars of breathing. You have your nervous system, which is obviously massive, especially here. We have our biochemistry and our biomechanics. So our biochemistry is all the stuff to do with blood pH and carbon dioxide, oxygen uptake, gas exchange. Yeah. And by changing the way we breathe, we can change that kind of quickly in the moment, but also over time, we can make bigger shifts in our biochemistry, which is really very cool. Right. The biomechanics is all our breathing muscles, our diaphragm, But it's way more than that. It's our rib cage and, all of those kind of, everything here. A sort of muscle training, inspiratory muscle, expiratory muscle training to do with our diaphragm and our other muscles and allowing that expansion and all of that. It's a huge topic that we can't even sort of touch today.
That's linked to posture and things like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So people with lower back pain often have dysfunctional breathing because our diaphragm supports our posture. Again, it's not everybody, but it's certainly something to look for. As our diaphragm is stronger, our other muscles here are stronger, are more supportive of our posture. So me and my back pain at the moment is thinking, well, actually, do I need to look at my diaphragm? I don't want to be one of those people that thinks they're perfect just because they teach it,
Sure.
We can all better ourselves. So it's I can't remember if I actually answered your question there or if I went off on a huge different tangent. But I think, what's so cool about the breath is that the breath is the quickest way that we can change the state of our body. Quicker than medication, quicker than nutrition. Breath is that, it's the key, or it can be, the key to unlocking that in that moment. And if you know those techniques, which exercise do you do when, if you learn your body and understand what's going on and what that looks like for you, you can go, oh, I can feel that here. Okay, I'm going to do some humming. For example, you know that, and it almost becomes unconscious. It's that awareness where you can just kind of tap into that so quickly. It's amazing.
Yeah, great. No, I think you did answer the question because it was about that mind-body link in terms of healing. And I guess the next sort of part of that, then, if you kind of used your breath to help calm your system, then that has, well, if you are in the sort of mind-body healing space, or you've kind of experienced that and the benefits of that, so you kind of understand it I guess then has that knock-on effect of those other wider physiological changes that can happen in the body, because your nervous system is no longer, it's become more resilient, is no longer firing off symptoms left, right, and centre always regularly.
It's anchored in safety, effectively, with those 25,000 breaths.
No, it makes total sense. Thanks for that, Jackie. I think I would love to build on that, what you just shared in terms of the benefits, to bring it to life a bit more with your own personal experience, because I know breath was catalyst, I believe, in your, or at least a key part in your recovery of long COVID, and then obviously what led you to become very passionate about it and train as a breath coach. So can you tell us a little bit more about about your recovery and how it helped you?
So for me, breath was the first thing that helped. I think, in recovery, we all have that first thing. For me, it was the breath. For someone else, it might be acupuncture. I always pick on acupuncture. But I don't have
me, by the way.
Maybe by the time, really good point. By the time we've found that first thing, we've probably found some other things that didn't work.
It's timing. It's timing too, right? Of when you try stuff. So. Because I tried acupuncture when I was in a complete mess and I couldn't cope with it. Coming back to that word of resilience as well. But like breath is probably something that's pretty safe to introduce at any point in your recovery if it's done in the right way. Because also there's more energetic breaths, and there's obviously like gentler.
I think that's a really, really good point, because the breath, I was going to say, the breath is what you make it. The breath is so accessible because you can come in at any level. And I totally agree. I mean, one of the things that helped me the most was cold water. But if I'd tried that earlier on, I think you've said that you tried it and it didn't help. And I think I would have had a similar experience had I tried it earlier on. So it's finding that, and it's doing it in the right way. So for me, I found the breath and I didn't quite do it in the right way. I worked with somebody who, I mean, he's genuinely one of the most wonderful people that I know. He had wonderful intentions and he taught me so much, and he learned with me as well. But his idea of he went in too high, because without that experience of long COVID, you
Mm,
or any of these illnesses, you don't know what it is like to feel like
mm,
that. Um,
mm.
it comes back to the invisibility of these illnesses, doesn't it? That someone who hasn't had that experience doesn't understand how tiring, how fatiguing fatigue actually feels like. We think, oh, I feel really fatigued today. It's been a really long week. And then you
Yeah.
get something like long COVID and you're like, oh, no, I had no idea. So I absolutely don't want to say a word against this guy because he was wonderful. But he did pitch it a bit too high. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about doing what I do, because I want to be what I needed. Teaching
Yeah.
people how to understand their own bodies and how to tailor these exercises that I'm teaching them to themselves, what to look out for, where to start. And that's why I think, your point about breathwork being really accessible is a really, really wise point, because, you just need to start as low as you need to. And being guided by someone who gets that, I think, is important. But yeah, in my own recovery, I did start too high. And some of the things I was trying to do, I was trying to do things like breath holds, for example, which, when I had, dysfunctional breathing, to the point where, like a 1 second breath hold put me into a panic attack,
Yeah.
obviously wasn't great. But, understanding the education piece that came with this, I think, was possibly one of the most powerful things that I got from that experience. So it was understanding that I should be breathing through my nose for a starter, which is why I always start with that, because so many people don't. So many people have never thought about it. I said, how do you feel in your breath? I'm breathing, right? And, don't get me wrong, that's hugely important. We need to be breathing as a starting point. But, joking aside, how we breathe and how we understand our breath. So yeah, for me, it was sort of really starting from the bottom and building that up, starting to breathe through my nose, starting to understand that I had a diaphragm, how to use it, to start using that. I went too strong on a lot of exercises as well, which, may have helped in some ways, but in terms of putting me back in bed, crashes, that experience, it was too hard for me. It was too much too soon. I wasn't coping in that sort of a way. But that's with the hindsight, that I have now.
Yeah.
So what I noticed was the breath was that as my breath became more functional, I was less reactive. I was getting less triggered. I was still getting triggered. Life was still a real struggle, but it was something that I can consistently work on, and I could see the improvements both in my breath and in how I felt. And I think possibly as well, it really opened some doors to other things. And I think this is
Yeah.
what's so important about the first thing. The first thing you find is probably not going to solve everything. It might do, but it's probably not going to. But what it's going to do, to put it into a computer game analogy, it's going to level you up. It levels you up, so then you can go, okay, now my breathing is functional. Now I can access yoga nidra. That was my experience.
Yeah.
When you're dysfunctionally breathing and your nervous system is going ding, 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 trying to do guided relaxations that are so important in order to calm all of this down in our brain and to, cognitively rest. It's very difficult to do that when your breath is going ding, 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 because you're constantly triggered. So when my breath started to settle, I was able to access some of that cognitive rest that I found so difficult. I have the monkey in my head all the time.
Yeah.
And doing those kind of guided things like yoga nidras, relaxations, just being able to calm it down a little bit was so helpful. And then, without taking a massive tangent off into cold water, which I want to do,
Yeah.
understanding the breath, that when you go into that water, being able to do it safely.
Yeah.
So if I tried to do the cold water too soon, that in the worst case scenario would have been hyperventilating and passing out in the water, which would have been a pretty drastic.
Which I nearly did, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. The danger is very real. So it's having that control over your
Until I
breath.
built resilience and until I found my catalyst for my healing to build more sort of capacity and resilience. And then when I introduced it later, like amazing. But sorry, I interrupt you, but I think it's a really important point, because I think you're right. Whatever the catalyst, it's like creating that healing space to then notice what works next or what doesn't work. You can't, when you're in that initial sort of acute phase, or like nothing touches the sides, right? You can't
Totally.
tell what's working.
You
And
can't
it
see the
might
wood for the
work, like
trees.
it might exactly, yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I think, what I always say about the breath as well is that it's a tool for life. So, we use it as this, catalyst for healing. I love that phrase. That's a beautiful phrase that you just used. And, it helps us to be functional. It gives us that foundation of health. We get all these new tools. Oh, when I'm feeling like that, I can use this exercise. When that happens, I can use that exercise. You're adding these tools to your toolbox. I hate the term toolbox, but anyway, it's the one that I'm using. But, then going forward, the breath is this wonderful kind of feedback mechanism. How resilient am I feeling today? I can feel that in my breath. How is my body coping when I do this activity? I'm going for this walk and my breathing is speeding up. Okay, I need to use that as a message to slow down, to take a break, to regulate. And I use it day to day now. I use my breath to track my cycle, for example, because I know what my breath does throughout that. I can tell
that's really tuned in.
when I'm getting to like certain points in my cycle because my breath tells me that. The same with, if I've had a bad night's sleep, I know that because I can feel it in my breath in the morning.
So you do it by how you feel rather than looking like your Fitbit or Apple Watch or anything like that. Is it purely based on how you feel?
I'm using, I'm not going to demonize technology because technology can be very useful in some situations. But I think particularly for some people, possibly for everyone, but particularly for some people, and I fall into this category, the kind of obsessive. If I had a Fitbit or something that was tracking my heart rate and it started rising, what am I going to do? Oh my goodness, my heart rate's rising. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. What's it going to do then? It's going to go up. My breathing's going to get faster. It's going to feed into that panic. Whereas if I can feel in my body, okay, my breath is speeding up a little. I need to regulate. Those alarm bells, some people have watches that literally ring alarm bells. And that can be so triggering. Certainly for me, that would be very triggering. So, it's coming back to this, using things for good, using them in a helpful way. And I think the breath is such a wonderful way of doing that because it comes from within. It's literally that kind of feedback from within our body. We listen to it. We can impact it with 1 or 2 breaths sometimes, or certainly a few minutes. And it's that quickest way of doing it. Onwards in recovery, I use it now. Like before we came on this call, I had a class that ran right up to it. I had like 2 minutes. I was like, okay, I have 2 minutes to go pee and to find the link. And I was thinking, I was starting to get into that slight stress response where I thought, I thought I would have time to go and fill up my tea. I thought I would have time to sort of stretch my arms out, brush my hair. And I didn't.
You look great, by the way.
So I thought, okay, well, actually, the most useful thing I can do here is, yes, go pee, but actually just to breathe for 30 seconds, settle my body, and then I can come on and hopefully not talk complete gibberish. So the power of that breath is just amazing. It's so cool. And it's something that I still use day in, day out now. I'm off, living the dream. I'm back doing all the exercise that I want to do, except not this week because I've hurt my back. And I use that breath all the time, when I'm feeling stressed, when I'm feeling, whatever I'm feeling. So it's so important.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And just to pick on something you said there earlier on, and I think it's important to note, I'm not just saying this because we are both our business owners are following our experience, but you said something about like you needed what you didn't have at the time. And that was one of the reasons that you became a breath coach. It was similar for me. I had a really bad experience with graded exercise therapy, not through any bad intentions, just because of that lack of deep, authentic experience of what the condition was, or a fatigue-related condition is. And there's many other people that have sort of found their purpose through, a shit situation, sensitivity. But I guess what I quite want to make is that, and I've had this with clients as well, like when they've gone to someone that hasn't experienced long COVID or chronic fatigue syndrome or chronic illness, thinking that their expertise will carry them through, but it only gets them so far. And then actually, I've had clients that got injured or been pushed too soon. So there's a reason that, like, I'm not trying to plug us here, but like, it's just that there is a safety in knowing that you're working with someone that has been through it, and deeply, deeply understands where you are coming from and what you need.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, this comes back to, I hear people say sometimes, oh, I tried breathing and it didn't work for me. And like, there's definitely part of me that goes like that. It always makes me chuckle as well, actually, because you're like, well, you're still breathing. But again, joking aside, there's so many different, breathing approaches, breath programs, all of these things. Wim Hof is very popular in some circles. And, it's finding the one that is appropriate for where you are in that moment. Now, Wim Hof, I'm not going to say anything against him because, he's great. He has so much success with some people, and that's amazing. But what it is an extremely up-regulating thing to do. And we don't need any help up-regulating. We up-regulate, we're already up-regulated in this space. What we need to do is the opposite. We need to down-regulate. So, I would just caution people, whether you want to work with me or whether you want to work with somebody else, it's make sure you know what you're getting yourself into and make sure that they understand what you need. Because you don't need to be upregulated. You need to be downregulated. You need to be breathing functionally, but you need to be doing it in a way that is gentle enough for your body to handle. And your instructor does not know that. The only person who knows that is you. So your instructor should be teaching you and helping you how to know that for yourself, how to learn your own body and how to understand how the breathing, this is why I don't put like times. Some people say, oh, how long will it take me before my breathing is this? How long will it take me before I can do this? I can't answer that because I'm not in your body. You have to go at the pace that is right for you. And you may find that the early stages take a long time, but then you then, like a boomerang. Or you may find that you show some very quick improvement to start with, but then you maybe plateau a little bit because, your nervous system needs a bit of time. So it's, that there's no one size fits all. I think that's the important thing. It's understanding what the breath is doing. I think this is why education is so important and why I will talk for hours and hours and hours about breathing, because it is so important to understand, your own body, what the breathing is doing. And, if you're going to do a breathing program, you will probably need to adapt it. If someone tells you to do a 4-6 breath, for example, I would probably ignore them, certainly to start with, because you're probably not going to be able to do that to start with. You will, but if you try to do it before you're ready, you're putting that extra stress on our body. And when you put that extra stress on your body, we know what happens when we do that. And it's not pretty.
Yeah. We all know that one.
Yes. We found it out the hard way, didn't we?
Right. Listen, that's been an awesome lesson on breathwork and the benefits of it for healing. So let's segue into the next part, which is you're going to take us, I think, first through an exercise of breath awareness, am I right? And then into a short exercise that viewers can do with us now and also take away of them to do again later. So I'm going to hand over to you, and I will be your participant of one for now, and hopefully many more when we put this live.
So you can be my guinea pig. So absolutely. So I think, education is so important, but also we got to feel this, if we're going to decide that we want to pursue this, and I would encourage you to do so. What does it feel like in my body when I do that? So some of you may have done breathwork before. Some of you may even have breathed with me before. But what I'm always going to say is listen to your own body. So if I'm suggesting that you could do something and it doesn't feel right to you, listen to yourself. So you might want to lie yourself down, you might want to grab yourself cushions or blankets or something soft. I've got my breathing buddy here. He's very soft, he's very squishy, he's very quiet as well. He doesn't talk over me. And, you know, I find him really great, especially when I'm a little bit stressed. I can put him on my lap and he has a very squishy bottom. And that for me is very soothing. So I'm a bit silly, but, you know, finding something that can help ground you in safety, especially if you're feeling a little uncomfortable, this maybe feels a little new. So yeah, you might want to lay yourself down.
Here.
Yeah, perfect. So, you know, you can sit up to do this as well. You know, I'm not going to lie down because I'll disappear from the screen. So if you are sitting, finding yourself some sort of maybe back support can be useful again, certainly to start with, to help support those, you know, support our core, support our back. Again, I don't have back support here because I'm sitting on my ball. But, you know, whatever works, and allowing yourself to feel comfortable, or as comfortable as you can in this situation. And taking your awareness to maybe your face to start with, relaxing the forehead, relaxing the jaw, so we can hold a lot of tension in our jaw. You might even find yourself wanting to make some slightly strange faces to loosen that off a little. And then relaxing the eyes. So that might be closing them gently, or it might be finding something just ahead of you to hold your gaze on. So whatever makes you feel more comfortable just now. And then whenever you're ready, gently bringing your awareness onto your breath. So if you've never done this before, it might feel strange. It might feel a little uncomfortable. And at any point, you can open your eyes. You could hold your own hand. You could touch something soft. Anything that's going to make you feel a little safer. And watching that breath as it passes into the body and out of the body. So we're not trying to change anything. We're not going to judge anything. We're just noticing with that curiosity of what is going on. What am I noticing in my breath just now? So maybe where you're breathing, through the nose or the mouth. Any sensations as you breathe. Maybe you can feel it in your throat. Maybe you can feel the breath through your nostrils. And as you're breathing lower down into your chest or your belly, you could put a hand on your chest and or your belly if that's comfortable. And start noticing where you're getting that movement. If it feels fast or slow, the size of your breaths. It feel like you're moving a lot of air, or not so much. You're noticing the temperature of the air. So especially now as the seasons change, the temperature of our air we breathe, maybe the moisture as we all put our heating on. You're just noticing what shows up in your breath. what shows up in the rest of your body? Any sensations? Again, anywhere that we notice that breath. Is there a particular spot in your body where you notice it, where you can feel the breath? And just holding your attention on there for a moment. And as we pay attention to our breath, noticing anything that changes. Have we sped up or slowed down? Do we feel a little more at ease? And you might want to sit here for longer. Give yourself more time to be with your breath. And like everything, this is a skill that we have to practice. So, as both a musician and a perfectionist, I understand that we have to practice things to get good at them. So those consistent practices, however long they are, even if it's just 30 seconds a day, you start to notice that improvement. And also as a perfectionist, or a recovering perfectionist, is understanding that that's okay. We're not going to be good at things the first time. We practice, we see progress, things get a little easier. So we're just going to focus a little lower down onto our diaphragm now. So you can keep your hands where they are if you'd like to. Particularly the hand on your belly might be useful. And noticing maybe you are breathing into your diaphragm a little more now. So as the body starts to relax, the tension starts to shift a little, allowing that diaphragm to move. And the good thing about using our hand on our diaphragm is that it gives us that mind-muscle connection. So I said earlier that our diaphragm doesn't have those nerve endings. You can't feel it move. But we can feel the belly move as a result of the diaphragm moving, which is why that hand on belly is such a useful tool. So allowing yourself to breathe a little deeper, only to the point that's comfortable. And if you find yourself getting tired or uncomfortable, you can take a break at any point. Allowing that breath to get a little lower. And imagining that breath as it comes in through the nose, all the way down into our lungs, down to the bottom of the lungs, that diaphragm moving, flattening out. Remember that vegetable steamer, flattening out, creating that space that allows the lungs to expand. So increasing that lung volume, getting that gas exchange that happens down the bottom of the lungs. And then reversing that, the diaphragm returning to its resting position, pushing the air out of the lungs as we exhale. So by doing this, we are slowing our breath down. And again, we only do it to the point that's comfortable. So slowly allowing the diaphragm to engage. Breathing into the hand. And feeling your hand move as the diaphragm engages, flattens, the belly opens out. And starting to get ourselves into this little bit of a rhythm, maybe. And what we're doing is we're doing so many things here. We're opening out our lungs, we're increasing lung volume, we are upping that gas exchange, we're slowing our breath down, we are stimulating our vagus nerve and engaging our rest and digest. We're also, if we think about what sits underneath the diaphragm, all of our digestive organs. So this can be really good for helping with any sort of digestive things that are going on or maybe not going on. Gently helping to massage that. So we'll do a few more. Remember, you can stop at any point. What we want to do here is to be comfortable. So if you do feel that little bit of air hunger, so like you don't have enough air, that's a sign to take a break. Maybe you've slowed the breath just a little more than your body is comfortable with just now. And learning to understand those signs from our bodies. So we'll do one more diaphragm breath. And then just check in with our bodies. Anything that you are noticing in your breath, in your body, in your mind. So do you feel a little calmer? Do you feel like maybe some of that mind chatter that you might have had has calmed a little? Any other sensations that might have changed? And if you don't notice anything, that's okay, because it might have been the first time. So you can stay there for as long as you like. You can keep going with the diaphragm breathing if you like to. Or maybe very gently starting to wriggle your fingers and toes. Maybe stretch or yawn. Maybe gently supporting your eyes as you open them. I always like a good overarm stretch. It's definitely what my body always wants. Or maybe you just want to sit in stillness for a little bit longer, and that's totally fine as well. So, yeah, that's some breathing.
Thank you. Thank you. That was lovely. I could have stayed there longer. I was really enjoying that. I was definitely feeling calm and relaxed.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I noticed my breath really slow right down. Felt very meditative actually as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of my favorite exercises to do, you know, for me in my life now. Not that I don't use other breathing techniques, because I do, but this is the one that I return to the most often. It's just that, 30 seconds diaphragm reset. It might have took me half an hour to get my diaphragm to settle before, but now it generally does it much quicker. I just need to take those few seconds. Okay, now I can go on that Zoom call, or now I can, whatever it is that I'm supposed to be doing, go to sleep.
Yeah. No, I love that. And it's just a really simple one, right? It's no like counting or, holding or anything like that. It's just very simple. Anyone at any stage can probably do. So thank you for that. Look, we're getting Well, we've definitely gone over with how long we were going to say we're going to chat. So we always do that. We always do that. So that's not what, but yeah. So, but look, that's been an awesome session, also educating session, and awesome guided breath exercise. So I encourage anyone that to come back to this when they need a reminder of that exercise, because it was amazing. And then if they want to get more of this stuff, where do they go, Jackie?
Yeah, so we have all the details of all our, upcoming courses and workshops, and links to our social media, our YouTube channel, and, all of that stuff is all on our website, which is longcovidbreathing.com. We're really imaginative.
And I'll drop it down below, don't worry.
Thank you.
In the,
we do have our 6-week 12 session course coming up. The next group starts in November, and there are, as we record this, there are still some spaces on there, and our one after that is starting in January. So we're running this. This is 12 sessions over 6 weeks, joining together with a small group. That connection, that breathing together, that is such a beautiful thing. Learning and sharing and all of this. So it feels like the best thing I've ever done. I genuinely, jump out of bed in the morning because I really look forward to doing it, which is really wonderful for me. But, I think that sense of connection really comes through, which is really cool. And, we can be each other's cheerleaders as well, because, it's a difficult journey, isn't it? It's whether you're talking about, starting to breathe or the wider, long COVID journey. It's having that support, having accountability as well. Did you do your 30 seconds, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is for you, of breathing this week, and cheering each other on. So yeah, we have different time zones, different days available, with both Vicky and myself. So, there's hopefully options for everybody, and things all get recorded as well if you have to miss a session. So,
brilliant.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, once again, thank you so much for jumping on my channel, and
my pleasure.
I'm sure this won't be the last time we connect.
No, we could talk all day, couldn't we?
I know. I mean, we were talking before we hit record. We're probably going to talk again afterwards now, but we'll save everyone else that, and I'm going to hit stop. So anyway,
thank you so much. Thank you.